Super duper. I assume if one of you can hear me, you can all hear me. Welcome. Hopefully everyone's braved the weather to get here today. It's nice and snowy outside where I am, so I'm sure it is where you are. For those people that were with us for the last session, there'll be time hopefully towards the end where we can just review what you've done with the apps that we went over last time. It'd be good to sort of hear how you've got on with those things. But today's session is going to focus on the 5 apps that you can see on my screen. So Ubersense, Evernote, Sketch, Dropbox, and Twitter. So like Lee said, as we're going through, if you just want to sort of ask any questions about each of the apps, I'll try to show as much as I possibly can in the time that we've got. And obviously, just ask away if there's anything else you want to know about. So if we start off with Ubersense, this is just one of many different video analysis apps that you can get. Why I think Ubersense is good is because it has a couple of functions in there that some of the others don't have, which just enable you to compare what you're looking at to another model directly on the screen. Students seem to like that quite a lot because they can compare themselves directly with their classmates, and certainly the students I teach really like that. So I've got a few things that I can go through here, but in terms of setup, right in the middle of the screen, you've got an icon, which is the silver circle with the red dot in the middle. That just instantly takes you through to your camera. So at the moment, my iPad is flat on my desk, so you're not going to see anything. But it's a basic setup. When you want to record, click the button again. When you want to stop it, and then you can go back and you can see all of the work that you've recorded. Once that's done, you end up being able to put those videos into specific areas. So if I have a look at this one now, I'll show you what it looks like. So if I click on edit, once you take the video in the first place, this is the screen that comes up. So you get to choose the technique and the sport that this is about. So I know this is already a drop shot in badminton, so it's already set up. But if it's not in there, if you don't get the option come up below, you can tick that straight in, choose the sport that it is. It's just a nice way just to store your videos and just make sure that you know what each one is. It's just an auto tagging feature. So if I click on that, the next thing you get to do is to choose who it is that you videoed. Again, nice to store things, certainly if you're doing this in advance of a second lesson where you might be doing the review the next time. It's just easy to find something. Plus, I find that students usually sort of want to ask again another lesson. So that thing I did last lesson, could you show me that again? So this is quite nice. So you can just add in the names. It is based on your address book in your iPad though, so you do need to set those things up in advance, and it links to email addresses. You don't have to do this. The other option you have is to put the "It's me," so you can just have them all as yourself. That's just a management thing. It's completely up to you how you want to manage it. So they're sort of your admin tools for using it. The app itself, I'm sure you've seen these before, but it's really straightforward. So this is a badminton session that we were doing today, which I just thought I'd get hold of. And as you can see, it's just recorded the video, and I can scroll through, I can slow things down, speed things up, stop it at important points where I might want to talk about something. So if I'm to look at the girls on the right hand side of the screen, ones that are still playing, I might say, look, it's a nice sociable game of badminton, but how can we do this to improve it so that you can be on the attack or win the points? So this bit here, she plays a nice shot which drops down low and forces her opponent to move out of position, forces a shot up. So I might say to her then, you should have been aware of that, you should move in. So that's just a straightforward, this is how it looks, this is what you just did, girls, and this is what I think you should improve on. What's also nice about it is you get a set of drawing tools. So you can draw directly on the screen. So where I'm looking at where they're playing their shots now, I can just simply draw, look, you're playing your shots up over these sorts of arcs. What difference does that make? How does that help the opponent when you're playing a shot to them? What can they do with a shot? If it's high, they can hit it straight down. So where might you want to play your shots instead? So by just changing the colours, I can just show, here's a different arc. You might want to play it closer to the net. So it's nice and simple, just demonstration to the students as you're doing it. Students really respond to that because they, after this session, they went straight back and thought, okay, I know exactly what I'm doing. Instead of the usual, okay, when you were playing those shots, this is what you're doing. And you spend sort of 5 minutes trying to recreate in their head what they did, but they didn't see it because they were doing it. And we all know that if you see things, if you see yourself doing it, then there's no argument there. So that's really nice with that. The other tools that we've got on here, circles, if you wanted to pinpoint something, you should be standing in this area here. Straight lines, you might be wanting to look at the angle. If you had a different video, more of a full-on shot of the person doing serving, you might look at the straightness of the arm or whatever it might be. The angle tool, this is quite useful if you're doing things like javelin or long jump or something where you're looking at angles of release or takeoff. And again, it will just work out the angle for you. So when we're looking at things like the perfect release for a javelin, you can say, okay, well, this is what you did. What is the perfect release? 45 degrees. Well, here's what your release angle is. So again, it's that instant feedback to the students. So that just stays on the screen whilst you're viewing through it, which is quite useful for the students to do. So we've gone through the drawing tool, and this just clears everything off. So we've got the screen back as it is. Down the bottom here, you can see where it says 1/8, 1/4. That's just slowing it down to different speeds. Find that quite useful if you're doing things like gymnastics, because it can really break down the skill. You can automatically just play through and the students can see it in slow motion. They can pick out individual points that they might need to improve on. Any questions so far? I don't want to sort of fly through things and lose people. Hopefully you can see the power of this as PE teachers. It's really, really straightforward to use. It is that video, and it just saves you having to explain to students what they're doing all the time. It says use this on I'm a player or I'm a coach. It doesn't really matter really, because for how we use it in PE, it's just the instant playback. The I'm a player, I'm a coach section is just more storage areas. You should always still have the options of being able to draw on the screen, etc. The last couple of functions to show you with this, the microphone in the top, in the middle, that's really useful if you want to keep that evidence, if you want to use it for a future lesson. Certainly if you're doing, as I do, I'll teach one half of year 7 and then teach the other half of year 7. So instead of duplicating it, I could just record what I've said. It's also really, really useful if you've got students away, because they're going to miss what you did. You could just hand them your iPad and just say, well, here's basically a synopsis of what we did last lesson. I want you to just have a look through that, see how you're getting on with it, and then see what things you need to work on in this lesson. This is what we did last lesson. What do you think you need to work on? Can you do those things? So just by clicking the record at the top, you can record everything that I just said. So, the angle of the shot through the air, where it should be. We were looking at drop shots in this lesson, although it's hard to see how these students are doing drop shots, but that was the idea. So you can just say to those students, this is how you do a drop shot. This is where it should go, using the annotation tools by drawing on the screen to actually point out where the shuttlecock could go. So from a teacher's point of view, really, really straightforward. It's also quite good to give this to the students and get them to record their voices over the top of it. Certainly if you've got non-participants, you could have a non-participant filming it, non-participant doing the analysis, and a non-participant then feeding back to that group to say, this is what I think you need to improve on. So quite powerful, quite useful. Last thing to just share with you on this is the compare function. So in the top right corner, I can click compare. So I can either find more videos that are showing Tiffany in this case, or click on other videos. So if I choose, if I've got any of me, nope. Okay. So straight away now I've got these 2 videos that I can see. I can control them both independently. So on either side I can scroll one forward, I can move one back. I could do the same down the bottom, pick certain points out in the video to see where I might want to find things. So all the same tools are there. I've got the same drawing tools at the top, so I can draw on the screens and look at different things. Really, really powerful. for students to see this, so that they can see this is where I should be. You know, you might have an example on the left-hand side of something which was absolutely perfect, exactly what you'd want to see, and over on the right-hand side, you can show them what they've done, which doesn't quite add up to that. Okay, a couple of questions coming up. Have you used Coach's Eye? If so, what makes you prefer this? This is the function which kind of makes this stand out to me that I haven't used on Coach's Eye, just because it's that instant comparison between, you know, student A and student B. I think that's answered those two questions. I'll use Coach's Eye. It depends what I'm using it for. So Ubersense is free, which is usually a winner with a lot of people. Coach's Eye has similar tools. Export tools are the same, so you can take that video off of your device. So if you wanted to send them to students' PCs, we used Edmodo last time and looked through that. You can export these onto Edmodo. Coach's Eye does the same thing, so that's quite useful. Massive difference between two? No, this again, like I said, the compare option I find is quite useful. Standardization, yeah. This session was a BTEC session, and we actually recorded this because we needed to use it for evidence towards their BTEC work. But in doing that, we could see straight away how this group was working at possibly a higher level to the other group, and so would be a useful CPD tool back to staff to just sort of have a look at moderation of groups. So yeah, that's very good. Can you link the videos to national curriculum levels? Yes, that's been done. I know there's a few teachers certainly within Bristol that have, you know, filmed things and highlighted that this is a level 3. This is what a level 3 would look like. They've put that on a staff YouTube area, which is very useful. Again, goes back to the standardization. Possible to import videos from elsewhere to use in the compare function? Yes, they did have. They seem to have taken it out. Not sure why. I don't know whether it's copyright issues or something. When Ubersense first came out, that was the one thing that sold me on this being a really, really good tool, was that I could search YouTube for a model, and I could have that playing on one side, whilst on the other side I could have the students. So in the very basic, no, you can't. However, what you could do is find that video and import it from your camera roll. So if I go back just to show how that might be possible, if I click on lets me do it. Okay. Apparently not. It did used to have a function where you could import videos from your own camera roll. So I was going to say that you could take videos off of YouTube and import them. But that function seems to have gone off this. However, I know you can do that on Coach's Eye. So yeah, a really, really good tool to be able to take things off. Yeah, so someone's pointed out iCab Mobile, thank you, just to download videos off YouTube and put them in. Coach My Video is another app you could use to compare performances. Yeah, excellent. Like I said at the start, there's a whole range of these video analysis bits of software out there. There's some that are specific to golf or specific to cricket. There are your general ones which are just labeled Coach's Eye and Ubersense, and obviously Coach My Video. There's burst mode, which just takes 50 pictures and adds them all together. There's lots of them. Hopefully, you know, what we can see is how we would use them within a lesson. So like I said, you know, just being able to pinpoint exactly when someone's done something that's really useful, to be able to highlight to the students, you know, where they should be hitting the shuttlecock, or how high they should be jumping, or what angle they should be releasing a javelin at. It's just really, really powerful tool to use. What we've done as well is in our sports hall, we've got some TVs, and we've linked it up to Apple TV, and that again has a really, really powerful tool for the students to be able to see it on a big screen. Certainly if you're recording one group at one end, they can see it all the way down the other end as an example. Yeah, Ubersense is free. I first sort of downloaded Ubersense because it was free, and that was sort of how I got used to using, you know, video analysis tools on the iPad. And then someone else had mentioned Coach's Eye, so started using that, and I think I've got 2 or 3 on my iPad at the moment that I sort of just go between depending on what I'm trying to get out of it. I would say Ubersense is really, really useful for your comparison. I think it is just useful, as someone said before, standardization, just being able to see directly two things happening at the same time, being able to compare one to the other and see which things are useful. Thanks, Simon. Yeah, it does improve levels. Students can see straight away what they can get. Does it matter in terms of video quality from iPad 234 Mini? This is my screen here. This is my iPad Mini. So this was filmed today. Haven't got the other iPads to sort of know, but as you can see, the video quality here is good enough to be able to see. I can tell who the students are. I can follow the flight of the shuttlecock, and the shuttlecock is moving fairly fast, and you can still sort of track it through the air and see where it's going. And so I don't think that makes too much of a difference, hopefully. Any other questions about Ubersense? It seems like people are fairly okay with it in terms of their use. Yeah, definitely. The cameras on the iPads are useful. I mean, the other thing with Ubersense is it's quite simple to use for students, and if you've got a suite of iPods, if you're lucky enough to have the iPods, it's something that you can download for free on a number of iPods, and do the same sort of thing. The students can replay it back, and just really, really useful. One last thing, actually, I missed to sort of say on the on a comparison one. If you turn it on its side, and if you click the button in the top right where you've got the two squares overlapping, you can either see them. Actually, it might work this way as well. You can either see them separately, but you can actually overlay them on top of each other, which is quite handy to do. Now, in this situation I've got here, the camera isn't set up at exactly the same angle on both videos. So if you had this at exactly the same angle, you can completely overlay those students and just see, what's happening differently. Badminton's probably not the best example for this, but something, maybe a basketball set shot, or again long jump or something, where you can actually sort of have a look directly at how the two people might compare to each other. Even with this, I suppose, whilst they're just playing, you can have a look at different people's movement. So in this video, we might say that the student sort of nearest the camera is moving quite well towards, he's got his hand up in a high place, whereas this student, the shuttlecock, the racket is quite low down. He returns it down to his, towards his shins between shots, whereas this student is trying to keep it up high. So, it's just quite a nice tool in terms of that. Non-participants roll to video, yeah, definitely. Anything to get our non-participants involved in the activity, and certainly where I've used this with non-participants, the feedback that they give is of really, really good quality. And the following week, they tend to be a lot more involved in the lesson anyway. Certainly if they're habitual non-participants because they just have a dislike of PE, this seems to get them back engaged because they feel that they've got a role in the session. Yeah, good. Over to you guys for a second in terms of your use and whether or not there's anything else that you might want to know about using the app, or any other uses within the lessons. I think we've covered quite a few in terms of you can use this for your GCSE, for your BTEC, for analysing things. Quite useful for a CPD tool in terms of standardisation of your marking. Useful for your non-participants. Just useful for general teaching, and you can still teach whilst you're filming this. It's not like this is taking your distraction away. Over the top of this, you can't hear my voice, but I am coaching the kids as they're working as well. So it's not actually stopping me as a teacher. Okay, yeah, overlaying the videos. In the top right corner, there's the squares, two squares. So at the very top, if you just click that, it automatically overlays them. And then in the middle, there's the slider bar, and that just moves between the two videos. So if you leave it in the middle, you can see ghost images of them both. Move over to the right, I'll see that image in full, and over to the left, see that image in full. And like I said, you've got the same options down the bottom, so you can slow things down, and that'll slow down both images. You can scroll through, so play them at different times. So again, quite useful. Teach compile clips for every subject with levels that we could access. I think this is something which people are starting to look at. I know I was at a meeting recently, and a local school to us in Bristol, of which one of their teachers is on here, if I remember, has actually started to compile video clips of their students and national curriculum levels, which I'm sure they'd potentially be happy to share with other people. We've got a PE Geeks website on YouTube where people have started to contribute videos that they found that have been quite useful. Not leveled at this point, but that could definitely be a next stage. So if you follow the link, hopefully if Lee can put that up in a second, there is definitely lots of potential for video clips within BTEC. Certainly now teachers are using iPads. We've got access to these things out on the pitch, in the sports hall doing gymnastics. Fantastic tool for gymnastics, and it's in the palm of your hand, which means it's not requiring a huge setup. We used to have dartfish in our sports hall, but the setup was always the thing that stopped people getting it out and using it. Whereas now with the iPads, it's open just an app and get straight involved in something and use it, when it's needed. Didn't have to be a hugely planned exercise in using video analysis. It's just, okay, this will be a good place to use it. I'm going to grab it out of my bag and use it. So yeah, really quite useful in sense of that. So any other questions on that, or we shall move on? If you do think